to the Weekenders. This is the show where we talk about the biggest football games and football topics each and every week. This is your boy Max, joined by Lexi and Bobby. Thanks for checking us out here on Multiplicity Media. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you have not already. We love it. We love it. And we're here to talk about championship weekend. What a crazy couple of games we saw. We're also going to dig into what's going on this offseason, some surprise and some surprising moves and not moves happening. And then we're going to give out some awards. And we're gonna do the awards our own way, some Weekenders awards for the season. So let's jump in though. We had the AFC and NFC Championship, two really good games. We had some interest on the show, obviously, because Lexi is obviously a big Lions fan. I had the Lions going to the Super Bowl. They were my preseason Super Bowl pick, and so a lot of people were interested in what was going on last weekend. But let's talk about it for a second. Let's start with the AFC Championship, though. I think, like, to me, my biggest takeaway is one, Patrick Mahomes is just inevitable. Like, it's what it is. It's what the takeaway for everybody, probably. But man, like, I felt like the Ravens just did something that a lot of like teams that are getting to the playoffs for the first time in a few years do. And I was surprised. Like, they got away from the run. They got away from doing what they do best. They didn't take advantage of being at home. Lamar made some mistakes. Obviously, the young receiver, Zay Flowers, made some mistakes. Like, it was tough to watch, honestly.
Yeah, they played really bad. That was bad. All those conversations that I wanted to Lamar to avoid is not going to be happening now. So,
yeah, no. I think I said something. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. I think it might have been last week where I said that Lamar might have kind of gotten over the playoff, like demons. But yeah. Look, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I thought the Chiefs were going to win, but the performance, 7 points, just all of it, it was not nearly enough. And that the performance itself between the Lions, that's what brings those doubts back up. And if you're the Ravens, I don't know if you're going to get a better shot than that.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh. I was just saying they were like the team all year. They were the team to beat, the team that went on, crazy, win streaks of just annihilating everybody in their path, and just to fall short like that is just, I'd be more hurt as a Ravens fan than I am as a Lions fan. I'll say that much, even though what we did was completely disappointing. But
yeah, because the thing is, this is multiple years of this. And you got, you got Burrow is out, so there's that. You got the Bills already out of the playoffs, and then you got a Kansas City team that, while they did look impressive against Buffalo, hasn't been exactly like world beaters all season. So, and you were at home, so you had them right there. That was as good of a chance as any, and it's just hard to imagine that they're going to have an opportunity that big come along again.
I mean, we had this discussion last week about the Bills Super Bowl window kind of being closed. I think like the Bills and Ravens fans are going to be on the same page in terms of saying, as long as we have these MVP level quarterbacks, like, we'll be fine. And I do understand that perspective, but I think you're right about this year for both of those teams being like such a good opportunity because they had home games for the Ravens. Like, this is a down year for the AFC North, and you had two AFC North teams in the playoffs. Like, this was the year where, like, it was sort of a down year because, the Bengals obviously didn't make it, and then you had the Browns and Steelers make it, but they didn't have quarterbacks. And, how long is that going to be the case, right? Like, you have, 4 really good coaches in that division, another elite quarterback in Joe Burrow. For the Ravens, you got to be kicking yourself because, this was your opportunity. And, yeah, Lamar did not beat we thought he beat the not good in the playoffs accusations against the Texans, but that came back around when he had to face a tough Chiefs defense, and Patrick Mahomes on the other side who made no mistakes at all. Like I was looking at the stats, throughout the game, and at one point it was like Pat Mahomes was like 31 for 33, like only two incompletions like the whole game. Like it was just that's insane. That's an insane level of like mistake free football that does not. It's hard to beat if you're the one making all the mistakes. So definitely a big missed opportunity on that end. And then talking about missed opportunities on the NFC side, obviously the Lions come into the 49ers house, get that 24-7 lead. Everyone's slamming on Steve Wilkes and Ben Johnson's looking like a genius, and the Niners are obviously make that crazy comeback. um, I think we all have eyes. We all saw the game, but obviously, Lexi, you know more about this team structure than both of us. Like, what did you see? What did you think kind of led to the Lions sort of falling apart at the end there?
Just not taking care of the ball. Like what I said from the get go. And everyone wants to be mad at Dan Campbell. He's been doing that shit all year long, and we would not be there without him having those type of decisions to go for it on fourth down. So I'm gonna scratch that. But the drop passes, Josh Reynolds. I can't say it enough. JMO with that beautiful flea flicker that just was just perfect dropped. Jameer fumbling. That was the quickest 14-point swing I've ever seen in my life. Like, especially, in a championship game. It's taking care of the ball. I love the coaching decisions. I loved it all year. This team was ready in the first half. And I will say that something with Ben Johnson needs to do is just really kind of tighten that third quarter, because he's sucked all season in the third quarter. And it finally, bit the Lions in the ass. We've never really kind of came from behind. And the second that you do, especially against a team like San Fran, they're great. It was a great game, great second half they played. You got to give it to them for capitalizing on every single mistake that the Lions made. And you can't do that against good teams. So got to take care of the ball.
I think I agree with you about the aggression, Lexi. I think the only thing is there was like the 4th and 2, I think, and I think these are both in the fourth quarter. There was a 4th and 2 and a 4th and 3. I feel like if you guys kick a field goal on one of those and they make the field goal, I think it makes the rest of the game a lot easier, right? Because those are both before they go down the field and score that touchdown. So
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. I do agree with you. The aggressiveness is what brought you here. You keep doing it. You keep pushing it. Maybe you can blame the play calling or whatever, if anything. But I feel like just one of those times, maybe the first time or the second time you go for the field goal try, like that probably is something that could have made the difference. But obviously, we'll never know.
Yeah.
That was my only thought.
We'll be back. We'll be back. This wasn't a fluke, so that's what I'm just really kind of coping with.
Yeah, it was not Dan Campbell's finest moment, to say the least. But that's the thing, is you kind of have to take the good with the bad, the grit, everything he did to go up to that moment. You can't just say, "Oh, this guy's trash," and I don't think anyone on this podcast is, for sure. But yeah, it was just a brutal collapse that, when you're young and haven't been in that moment, that kind of happens sometimes. So just got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like that, not only do the players need to kind of polish up, but yeah, the coaching does. And I mean, this was Dan Campbell's third year. We got to the NFC Championship. I can't sit here and say that I'm so disappointed, because I didn't even think we'd get here. I thought we'd probably win a playoff game if we're lucky. But yeah, just got to make better decisions all around, I guess, for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. Well, speaking of going back to the drawing board for the offseason, a lot of coaching moves are happening and aren't happening. So far, I'm going to read out who's been hired. Where we got, obviously, the biggest name, Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers. Bolt up.
Hey, I'm so excited you get to watch him next week.
Antonio Pierce is the new head coach of the Raiders. Jared Mayo with the Patriots. Brian Callahan with the Titans. Dave Canales with the Panthers. And Raheem Morris with the Falcons. General managers, Tom Telesco, who used to be general manager of the Chargers, is now on the Raiders. Adam Peters with the Commanders. Dan Morgan with the Panthers. And Joe Hortz will be GM of the Chargers. Now, the jobs that are still open are the Seahawks and Commanders head coach, and then the Patriots general manager. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question right now is we have two head coaching jobs open. I would say maybe the biggest and probably best names still out there for those positions are Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel. Vrabel, excuse me. Are we know that Belichick and Vrabel have both had meetings with certain different teams. Bill had a couple of meetings with the Falcons. They decided to go with Raheem Morris, obviously. Vrabel's met with a couple of teams. Are you guys surprised that they still don't have jobs yet?
Vrabel, yes, in my opinion. But Belichick, it's one of those where I get the argument for him not having a job a little bit more. He's a little long in the tooth. He's been at it for a while, and as a lot of Patriot fans can say, and there's a reason why he's not employed. It's because he's set in his ways. He hasn't listened to his scouts very well, and I don't know. He's kind of gotten into this point where maybe he's past his prime. Maybe his belief system isn't quite what you need to, win in the NFL anymore. And, maybe a lot of that success was Brady too. So I think partially that there's a little bit to that end of things that, that's why Belichick hasn't been hired yet. Vrabel, on the other hand, I don't really know. That's a shock to me. He makes a lot of sense as a head coach. And I don't know. I think a lot of, outside the Chargers going with Harbaugh, a lot of the thought process has been, let's go with, some new blood. Let's get something different going on. That being said, Vrabel's one of the best coaches in the NFL, or was one of the best coaches in the NFL, like as of a couple years ago, and should be at a franchise right now. That's astonishing. And honestly, I'd be a little stunned if he doesn't end up as the head coach of the Commanders. Or have they? Commanders haven't hired anyone, have they?
No, the Commanders and Seahawks jobs are still open.
Okay, yeah.
Commanders did fly to Detroit though, and they were no longer interviewing Ben Johnson, but they were also interviewing Aaron Glenn. So.
Okay, yeah, we'll see how it goes, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm like on the same page. Obviously Belichick's always going to be like a legend for what he did, but I'd be hesitant too. He is a guy that is very stuck in his ways, and you just saw how he drafted the last few years, and you're just kind of like, what? That was terrible, and now they were literally awful this season. So, but yeah, Vrabel, I'm so confused. I thought he would be one of the first scooped up. I think he's a great coach. He's got a great mindset. He's a tough dude. Someone, kind of similar along the ways where I look at like Dan Campbell, where you're like, he's just like a player's guy. Like he's there and he's kind of all about it. So I'll be shocked, but I think that the Commanders would be a really good job for him. So we'll see. I think it'd be a good fit. Not really sure who's going to go to Seattle though.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Vrabel and Seattle would go well together. So.
Well, like Bobby said, Vrabel is a 2021 Coach of the Year. It's funny too because it's like Belichick and a Belichick assistant are available now in the coaching search. But no, I mean I think you guys make some great points. I think the problem with Belichick is there's no more situations available where Belichick could be both the head coach and the GM. Like the jobs open already have GMs. You have obviously, like I just said, in Washington they got Adam Peters as the GM, and then over in Seattle you have Pete Carroll who basically moved upstairs, to do the consulting. So you're not really going to have, if you already have Pete Carroll, in charge of making personnel decisions or a part of making personnel decisions, you're not going to bring in a Bill Belichick to also, have input or have the final say. So I think the situation's more complicated for Bill because he's going to have to decide, do I want to take a year off and maybe see what comes up next year, or do I want to just go somewhere and be just a head coach, because that's all that's going to be available to him now. And I think because of the points you guys have made, his drafting, his not being able to get along with scouts and or listen to their advice, I think those are the reasons why nobody really wants Bill to have that GM role. So I think that's going to be an interesting decision for him. And yeah, Vrabel, you think he had have a spot by now? I have no clue why he's not in a position. But Vrabel is also a guy who, kind of has some. To me, like he could, uh, take a year also and have his pick and maybe look for a better situation. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see who fills those jobs in Seattle and in Washington. I will say that this is the first year where like no one's talking about Eric Bieniemy not getting a job yet. Like I feel like that's been the conversation for the last 5 years. Is like Eric Bieniemy, Eric Bieniemy. And now this year, like with two jobs open, like no one's really talking about him as a candidate. I think it'd be interesting because he's already in the building in Washington, so they could promote him if they wanted to. But that's another name that's kind of like, you know, usually more discussed in these situations, but hasn't been this offseason. Um, but let's talk about Harbaugh for a second. Obviously, at the Chargers, good situation, got a quarterback, got some pieces. A little bit of a tough job because you're in a tough division and you are also battling, a lot of different things in the organization. Um, but do you guys feel like this job is a good fit for him with the Chargers? And do you guys think this is going to be a good situation for Justin Herbert?
100%. I think that's probably one of the best hires that they could have done. Like I've always said, that Jim back in the NFL is always going to be a good thing. I think anywhere he goes, he kind of brings some type of success or development. And Herbert has been desperately needing somebody to not only mentor him like as QB, but like coach him as a quarterback. And what better fit than Jim freaking Harbaugh? So I'm really happy for him. I'm really happy for the Chargers. Him bringing Minter too is huge, and I think will be a really good piece for their coaching staff as well. And obviously Ben Herbert, the strength and conditioning coach. Not too sure how that's going to go with the NFL because they kind of just do their own thing. But he's got his stuff in place. But Herbert's been needing this, so I'm really really excited to watch and see what he does with them next year.
Yeah, I really like the fit. The college to the NFL jump obviously sometimes feels weird, but Harbaugh always has kind of been a pro coach, obviously. His time at, the 49ers was incredibly successful, and he's shown he can do it. He was only like 8 yards away from winning a Super Bowl, like about 10 years ago. So to me, I feel like it's a good fit. He brings a great culture, a culture of winning, something that the Chargers just really kind of never have had. I mean, go back to the Schottenheimer era, I suppose, but that's about it. So I think you get a really strong, solid voice that really can reinvent and flip that culture. And plus, hey, maybe you can hire Connor Stallions now. The scouting rules are a little more lenient in the NFL.
I hope he does. I think that should be so funny.
He should just give Connor Stallions season tickets to the Chargers.
Yeah, honestly. Right.
Or to Michigan,
and then publicly
whichever.
Send him like all over to videotape. Like.
It should be like a Where's Waldo situation. You just see him popping out throughout the just various NFL stadiums.
Yeah.
So kind of like I kind of talked about this out of order, but okay. So today the big news came out that Ben Johnson, who was obviously heavily considered for the Washington and Seahawks jobs, as Lexi mentioned earlier, he's going to stay with the Lions. I think it's an interesting choice. I think it's obviously great for Detroit because if you want to, the hardest part about going back to the playoffs and capturing the magic of years prior is, and the NFL assistants move on. We're seeing that we saw that with the Eagles, got to the Super Bowl, both assistants left, and now, they weren't able to. They weren't the same team this year. I mean, they just weren't that. And then with the Buccaneers, like they had a really good year. Now their assistants are leaving. Like, that's the hardest part. But for the Lions to have Ben Johnson come back is huge, obviously for them. And again, like we talked about with Vrabel and Belichick, maybe he feels like there could be better situations for him next year. What we don't know. However, that leaves the Commanders and Seattle jobs still open. So at this point, who is the best fit for those jobs?
I mean, I'm gonna say I like Vrabel for Washington. I know I stated that earlier, but I don't know who's gonna be a fit in Seattle. I don't. I'm trying to even put it together, but I don't know. I feel like they're a little bit lost right now. Just there's not a lot of good options right now that they're even interviewing, I feel like. So yeah, I don't know.
I feel like both are pretty solid-ish rebuild projects, but if I had to go with to me, I'm with you, Lexi. Seattle is, they tried the Geno Smith thing again, but let's be honest, that's a dead end. It's done. That's fine. We don't know what the next generation of that will be. They have some work. They have to figure out an identity without Pete Carroll, who has anchored them for over a decade. Now with the Commanders, though, I'm with you. Vrabel feels like a perfect fit there. Hard nosed. You have a structure there that it's not exactly a great structure, but you have a brand of football, and I feel like Vrabel fits that, and he can take it to a different level. So I would say that's the only fit I can think of. I'm not trying to piggyback off what you said there, but it's just the best answer. Because frankly, I have no idea what else you would do at this point.
I think. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say because that Raheem, he went to Atlanta, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Raheem Morris.
So I'm just I'm looking at the list right now, and I'm like, it's just slim pickings, really. I don't understand, what they're waiting on or what. But
I think I won't say a name, but I think what's going to happen is, or probably what's in the best interest of both teams is, I think Washington should pick an offensive guy, and I think Seattle should pick a defensive guy. And I think Seattle is going to pick a defensive guy. When you look at a lot of people they're talking to, we talked about Vrabel being a possible fit there. He's defensive. Dan Quinn going back to Seattle, defensive coach. They interviewed Mike McDonald from the Ravens. He's a defensive guy. They interviewed Ejiro Evero from the Panthers, defensive coordinator. These are all defensive people that Seattle's looking at, and they might move forward with. You've got Geno there. You don't really have a draft pick that's going to be able to get you, a great quarterback. So, that could work out. We've seen it work with Texans, even with their high draft pick, grabbing a defensive coach to pair with CJ Stroud. But yet and still, I think offensive is probably what the Commanders should do and probably will do. One, because they're going to, get one of, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, whoever. And they just came from having a defensive coach in Ron Rivera. So I could see them wanting to, flip the script, get an offensive guy to pair with the quarterback and go from there. But yeah, at this point, who knows? Real quick, obviously, Lexi, I know you love the decision for Ben Johnson to stay in Detroit. Bobby, do you think it was a good idea for Ben Johnson to stay in Detroit?
Yeah, I do. It's always a tricky thing when you're a hot name in the market and everything, but essentially where they're at right now, being stuck between, I don't know, downgrade, the Commanders or the Seahawks as a rock and a hard place, but at the same time, the market's not that great, and maybe he wasn't getting the right type of deal. And look, running it back with the Lions, that might just be the best move you could make, because your stock's obviously on the rise up. You're in a good situation. Why not run it back, see what you can do, and by the time everything gets crazy next year, maybe your opportunities are way better.
Yeah, I saw someone say too, it's just like, kind of waiting out like what Andy Reid's going to do, maybe how the Cowboys are going to do next year. I think like waiting out, I know, and he didn't ask for more money. Like that was what is crazy to me. Like he is just chilling fine. I think that speaks a lot to Dan Campbell too. When you find somebody like, him and Holmes, someone you want to work for, that's what matters. But yeah, I think waiting out, he'll have more opportunities like probably next year, given how things will probably end up going. So,
yeah, I feel like every year is like, see if the Cowboys job opens up. Like that was the narrative with Sean Payton. That was the narrative this year. Like everyone's just like waiting for them to fire Mike McCarthy, and it just isn't happening. So that's just so funny how like every year it's like Cowboys. It was the same thing with Jason Garrett. Like everyone was like, wait till the Cowboys job open up. I mean, every time that person or this person would lose their job. So I feel like the Cowboys job is like always like a possibility for everybody every single year, which is kind of sad actually for the Cowboys.
It's just the sword constantly hanging over your head, really. After 1 or 2 years, then it's like, ooh, at any time.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our awards. We know the NFL awards are going to be out there. A lot of shows are going to talk about their predictions for the real NFL awards, but we made our own awards, and let's start with the first one. Who should get the That Boy Nice award? For those watching, listening, this is the award for the most impressive player, not the MVP, not the best player, just the one where you can't keep your eyes off the screen when he's playing. The That Boy Nice award. Who's it going to? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Facing Puka Nacua in that first playoff game, I watched the Rams here and there, and I was like, yeah, that kid is good. And I mean, and just for being so kind of like under the radar, underrated going into the draft, everything, he has just excelled. Perfect fit for the Rams, and really kicked our ass, but luckily we made it through that game. But yeah, I'm gonna give it to him.
Oh, Puka was such a great pick, and this is an example of why I need to stop getting so late to the document, because it's always tricky. I'm gonna go with my guy CJ Stroud. I know he's gonna get a Rookie of the Year, or at least be strongly considered for it. He has been absolutely electric, and just what he brought to that team, that offense, the long bomb, this just incredible energy about him, just rejuvenate, just bringing so much energy to an offense and a team. I mean, do you know how many times I've had to watch the Texans with my wife and watch these crappy Davis Mills not that, but just bad players roll out here and just look awful. Oh my God. Seeing CJ Stroud has been just a breath of fresh air, and I am just, he is my That Guy Nice award.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
My That Boy Nice award goes to Christian McCaffrey, and I'll tell you why. Christian McCaffrey's, his career was sort of like in a weird place because he came onto the scene, had a great years, Pro Bowl, All Pro type guy, was looking great, and then he, in his last few years in Carolina, was just riddled with injuries. It was really unfortunate. It wasn't looking good, but has seemed to be rejuvenated in San Francisco, and this year he definitely carried that team each and every week. Obviously, in the playoffs, just watching him, break tackles, find open lanes, find yards when he looks like he was going to get tackled for a loss. I'm just so impressed with Christian McCaffrey. Still doing great at this point in his career when, you see a lot of running backs dwindle by about year, 7, 8. Like he still looks like he's got a lot of football left in him and he's playing at a high level. Maybe it's the rest that he got from all those injuries, but I know the Niners are glad to have him. He led the league in yards, rushing yards this year, tacked on 700 receiving yards as well, over 2,000 all-purpose yards. McCaffrey, you know, I don't want to. It's this. We're going to talk about it next week, but I'm not loving the Super Bowl. But McCaffrey wins a ring, I won't be mad. Definitely should be a Hall of Fame type guy. So I'm giving my That Boy Nice award to Mr. Christian McCaffrey, who, by the way, this week sold his mansion, not house, excuse me, his mansion in Charlotte, and it was like major news that he sold it. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's huge. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey, you are nice. All right. Oh yeah, he might win Offensive Player of the Year as well. I think he's favored to win. It's like him and Tyreek are like the top two options. Okay, moving on. Sorry. He won't win anything, but he should win an award. Who are we going with for this one?
All right, this is me being a grown up and removing my bias, but honestly, Jordan Love just totally came out of his shell, stepped into the shoes that Aaron Rodgers so willfully left behind. And it's impressive. I hate it so much. I hate it. But yeah, he's good. He's gonna be good. Really showed out in the playoffs too. Maybe fell a little bit short, but they got another quarterback yet again. But somebody that I'm definitely giving respect to because I just think that he's only going to get better. So got to prepare for that in the North.
I'm gonna go with, I feel like this might be like a lifetime achievement award sort of thing, but we gotta give some love at some point to Trent Williams. The offensive linemen never win awards, but this guy has been an absolute beast his entire career in the NFL. And he's anchoring a San Francisco 49ers unit that has been really pretty damn incredible. And, frankly, that offense, when you talk about, what makes that go, Ayuk, McCaffrey, we don't talk enough about Trent Williams, what he's done as, from his time on the 49ers on. Honorable mention, Jason Kelsey, but he gets too much love. Rightfully gets so much love because he's delightful and he's incredible. But let's give some love to another offensive lineman that doesn't have an awesome podcast and takes his shirt off. Like Kelsey gets it. Kelsey's a great center, anyways. He does great stuff. Don't get me wrong. Trent Williams deserves all of the love.
You know what? I'm kind of surprised that with all the advanced analytics we have about like offensive lines and offensive linemen, that there is not an award for offensive linemen like by now. Like I feel like there should be definitely one created because you're right. I mean, outside of all pro recognition and Pro Bowls and stuff, like offensive linemen aren't really recognized, and I feel like there should be a single award for offensive linemen, especially with. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Panay would definitely be winning one that a time or two.
Yeah. Oh, Panay is amazing. I really am so hurt that like the Panthers were not in the draft position to draft Panay Sewell because like I would have like done backflips if we got him. Like, that was Panay's a stud. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I think offensive linemen should be getting individual awards right now. If the NBA can give out awards to sixth men and guys coming off the bench, the NFL can give an award to offensive linemen.
College does it,
for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
exactly.
actually surprised.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. 100%.
Love to the guys protecting the most important player on the field. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is like another. We could do another podcast about this, but like, there's the NFL because of practice schedules. The offensive line play is like terrible. Compared to a few years ago when there was more practice and more development of offensive linemen. So having a great offensive lineman is even more important now than it was, 10, 20 years ago. So I mean, that's that they should definitely get more love. But go ahead, Bobby. Sorry.
I was gonna go into a tangent about how one thing I've heard is like the development, like the high school level, isn't as good, and I've heard a lot. One of the people I work with elsewhere outside of this, Sam Mays, who played at OSU, I've seen him go on entire rants about it. It's fascinating to watch, but
it's bad. Yeah, it's bad. It's just the development, the practice in the NFL now. Like there's less practice, which means you can't really like get reps, which offensive linemen need. Like it's a real problem.
Right.
But he won't win anything, but he should win an award. Award goes to Baker Mayfield. Now, I think he's definitely a finalist for Comeback Player of the Year. But Damar Hamlin is favored to win the award. I think there are debates about whether or not he deserves it. I feel like if you pretty much die on the field and you come back and you play another game of football, you should get an award like that. But that's just me. But yeah, Baker Mayfield may not get Comeback Player of the Year, but it's kind of similar to McCaffrey to have a career resurgence when he was pretty much left for dead in Tampa. That's fantastic for him, and I think he definitely should get some recognition for sure for the year that he had.
Baker should win Comeback Player of the Year, like for sure. If it wasn't for the Damar Hamlin thing, maybe Damar Hamlin should get some sort of like, hey, sorry, you almost died, and that the only thing we can't have the only recognition Damar Hamlin gets to be a ambulance in Buffalo. Apparently, when they put his number on the window, very weird move, very strange,
really strange.
Like Damar Hamlin, pretty cool that you came back, but also let's be honest, your only real notable involvement on the team was probably the worst play of the Bills season. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. They put you in a bad spot, my guy. I'm so sorry. But if we're really being honest here, man, if we're really being upfront here, can we get him like a different thing, like a little plaque? Like, I don't know. So Damar Hamlin should get something. You can separate this in two.
It could probably be like for this year, a special situation, like recognize him for his bravery, for coming back, for getting back on the field, and then give the Comeback Player Award to, Baker or whoever else. But yeah, I think I agree with you there. But I don't mind that he's gonna win it, but like at the same time, I wouldn't also be mad at a situation where he just gets a special shout out and then somebody else wins Comeback Player of the Year.
I think you almost need to like split the award in two, where you have a congratulations on coming back from this crazy injury award, and then you also have a congratulations on saving your career and not having to go to the XFL award. Which is like I feel like there are two. You have to have these two really deserve it for two different reasons. You know what I mean? Because Baker, his career was dead, man. Like, that was really impressive. But anyways.
Yeah, I think this is sort of similar to 2020, the Alex Smith year, when like his leg was like, he was gonna die, or they thought he was gonna die because of his leg, and then he just like appeared in a game and he won Comeback Player of the Year. But he didn't play much that year. I think he played in a couple games, but like that was. This is sort of we've seen this happen before. Which, to Bobby's point, maybe there's a different award for like coming back from a serious injury versus coming back and playing better than you played before. Maybe the NFL needs the most improved player. Maybe that's the solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a comeback for injuries and then most improved for, getting better, year over year. That's probably a good idea.
Yep, that's the answer.
Roger Goodell, let's talk. All right, next, this is an award, but okay, yeah, this is an award, but a different thing. Who gets the most disappointing team? I guess that can be an award. The most disappointing team award.
It's like a Razzie.
Yeah.
Okay, it's definitely the Patriots for me. Bill Belichick Patriots. Just not that I was expecting them to be like, the Tom Brady Patriots, but what a fall from grace. It's very disappointing all around. Draft, play, the whole season.
The Patriots are disappointing to me because I knew they were going to be ass. I think when we did the previews, I was like, the Patriots are going to be terrible. I'm sorry, Pat. Pat was there. I was like, man, I'm so sorry, dude. That team's going to suck. But
I was going to say, Pat is, look, love the guy. He was a great guest. He also was the most incredibly convincing because by the end of that episode, I was like, you know what? They might make the playoffs.
He was.
I'm sorry, totally wrong, man. It whiffed. It whiffed bad. But hey, that was unfortunate. Hey, not everyone's perfect though, Max. I'll get to my disappointing team too if we're done talking about the Pats. And we're talking about whiffing. It's got to be your AFC champion, LA Chargers, because they were just, with Justin Herbert, we all kind of thought, last year, they kind of had some bad luck. Things just weren't working, and they were atrocious. Brandon Staley. Look, I'm not going to just point fingers here because I also said that Brandon Staley might win Coach of the Year, and that was horrid. Horrible take on my end. So everyone with the Chargers was off. They were really disappointing. They were really, really bad. And quick anecdote before I give up the mic. I have a friend who we went to Las Vegas. He came in a day early to watch Chargers Raiders because he's a massive Chargers fan. Flew in from Virginia. And I'll never forget hopping on the plane. Game starts. They go down 7. I'm like, oh man, I hope the Chargers don't, just blow it. Then I land. Notifications come on. My poor guy hanging out in Raider country, by himself, watching this game. Just horrible, horrible stuff.
Yeah, I agree that the Chargers were a big disappointment. I almost put that as my vote. And I hate that for your friend too, to be in that situation like that's gotta be crazy.
The funniest part is he said, "Oh, it happens." I said, "No, it's literally never happened. This is the worst. This is historical loss."
Yeah. No, I feel terrible for him. Listen, I really was excited about the Jets this year. I was like, all right, the Jets will finally be relevant again since the Mark Sanchez years. I felt bad, man. I was happy for the Lions. I really was because I'm like, man, fan bases deserve to have a break sometimes. Bad teams deserve to have their time in the sun. And the Jets were looking good until about the second play. The second play of the intervals of the Jets season when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles and it was all over from there. And so, disappointing team because, we had obviously hopes for them. They brought in Zach Wilson and that team just turned it back into the same old Jets. But man, that was tough to watch. And I'm sure those friends are glad the year is over. Yeah, Jets, big disappointment. Aaron Rodgers, toyed with us all year, talking about trying to make a comeback. Maybe it was just motivation for his teammates, but yeah, that was tough.
He's just full of shit.
Yeah.
He's just full of shit. The fact that he tried to make us think that he was really going to come back and play some medical miracle of whatever he smoked to make his ACL better or Achilles better. I don't even know.
When was the last time Aaron Rodgers said, just anything either correct or interesting.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's funny. All right. On the other side, the most surprising team. I'll go first. Texans, obviously, from picking second to making it to the divisional round in the playoffs. Um, Obviously, C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson are possibly in line to be co-rookies of the year. That would be the first time two players on the same team won both Rookie of the Year's awards since the Jets did it 2 years ago with Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. So yeah, I mean, the Texans, hats off to them. D'Amico Ryan seems like a great coach. They seem like they have a great thing going there. They've turned the page on the, Deshaun Watson era. So, definitely surprised by their success quickly and happy for them moving forward.
Yeah, mine for me is like the Raiders post firing Josh. So I really just thought it was just going to be a wash of a season. They'd hire this interim and it'd go as well. But what a great fit, and just culturally like rebuilt it. Not like that's going to be rebuilt and perfect already, but just patched it up so quickly. And these players, like they bought in so quick. They're on board so quick. They played with heart, where I didn't really see that, the last like 2 years or whatever with McDaniels. So, I'm happy for them. I was totally shocked the way that they took on after losing their head coach. So, I think it's going to be a great fit for them going forward as well. So, good for them.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Green Bay Packers, and look, we're not going with the regular season award show rules. I was really impressed with what they did against the Dallas Cowboys, but overall, all season long, and bouncing back from losing Aaron Rodgers, losing, but in addition by subtraction, really, Jordan Love's development all season long. They looked great. They looked really, really good. Honestly, cohesively, some of the best they have in years, and they're pretty set for the future, I'd say. So, I like the pack.
Yeah, I thought the Packers were going to be lucky for a different reason. Like, I thought the Packers were going to be so bad this year that they were going to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, and then I was going to be like, yeah, there we go. They're set for life again, like Packers. But the Packers look to be set for a different reason because Jordan Love is actually good. And so, yeah, that was a huge surprise to everyone, I think. No one really knew what to expect from Jordan Love. And, shout out to him for putting in the work and, becoming a guy that looks like he can be a legitimate franchise quarterback in this league. So, yeah, that's they're definitely worth the vote. I mean, definitely worth the award. All right, last two. We got the Maybe Next Year award for the team that fell just short of expectations. Now, that could mean, your expectations are totally up to you. You can define what the expectations were. I'll go ahead and start with mine. My vote was for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Coming off a year where you surprised the world and came back to be the Chargers in the playoffs the year before, you feel like, okay, they're in a division that is for the taking. Trevor Lawrence takes that next step in becoming a star quarterback, and the Jaguars, have a breeze to the playoffs and possibly a deep playoff run. Well, the season started that way. It started with, I believe, 7-3, 8-3 season, and then the bottom fell out from there. Trevor didn't play well. They looked really bad. They lost some dumb games, and they ended up missing the playoffs entirely. So, Jaguars, I don't know what you have to fix. Probably got to make some tweaks here and there. The good thing is you have your quarterback. He's got to be better. Got to maybe continue to change some things. But, maybe next year for the Jaguars. The only tough part about it is your division is not easy anymore. The Titans are rebuilding, so, there's that. But the Colts were a tough team this year, and next year they'll have Anthony Richardson back. The Texans obviously are going to be good, and I said that the Titans are rebuilding, but if the Will Levis Brian Callahan pairing, goes off, we don't know like what the team will look like. So the Jaguars got to figure it out quick. But they're getting my maybe next year award.
This award should be named after Jerry Jones, and as such, giving this one to the Dallas Cowboys. Look, guys, you had a good run. You got close. But you know what? Just keep trying it. Yeah, Dak. It was just bad luck. Dak Prescott definitely is still a elite star quarterback, and Mike McCarthy. He's failed a bunch of times and just can't get it right. But next year, that's when he gets it right. So you know what, Cowboys? Maybe next year.
Yeah, that's how I feel kind of like about the Colts. I know that they improved a lot from like 2 years ago, went 9-8. I really like Anthony Richardson though, and I love like the way that that he fits in that whole system there. But I think, they got some picks this year. I don't really remember. I think I had them winning like 10 games. Maybe they were like right at the expectations, but I think that they kind of fell short in some of these games and could have had a much better record and not given kind of the crown to the Texans there. But I think that the future is bright for them. Anthony Richardson is going to be a great quarterback for years to come, and they've got a lot to look forward to. So maybe next year in Indianapolis.
Love it. I love it. All right, here's our last award. It's coach, or let me see, not coach of the year. That's the NFL. Best coach this season. So, coach of the year, I feel like sometimes it's like the coach that did the most with the least award, or it often is sometimes taking history into consideration a little bit too much. For the best coach this season, I really want to put this season itself into a vacuum, only looking at what they accomplished this year, not what they accomplished before, or even what they accomplished relative to expectations, just what they did, the coaching job they did this year. So who wants to go first?
I'll go. So I know it's like someone who's always seemed to be like a really good coach, but I'm just gonna say Andy Reid here. So like Chiefs came out flat, you know what I mean? Get beat by the Lions. Wide receivers are just awful. Patrick Mahomes looks rocky. Kelsey's hurt. It just their backs were against the wall. Everyone, including us, kept doubting them all season. But Andy Reid and company just turned it around, and now they're going to the Super Bowl again. Which you look back on the season, you're like, how did they make it to the Super Bowl? But it's because of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. So that's going to be my vote for this season.
For me, I'm going to go with the guy who, I gave CJ Stroud a ton of credit, and well-deserved credit, for turning around the Texans' offense. But I want to give credit to the guy who turned around the Texans. DeMeco Ryans' absolute incredible job. Franchise that had been completely just, treading water. And what he did was really remarkable for, a guy who's, 39, hadn't been a head coach, but yet really, he did a great job in his first year. And it's incredibly exciting, incredibly cool. And, you gotta, I feel like a lot of the attention is on Stroud because Stroud's great, but you gotta give love to DeMeco Ryans, who is just a masterful job on his end. Just beautiful.
Yeah, I love both of those picks. Andy Reid, kind of taking a Chiefs team that was, let's say, a little bit depleted offensively, with an aging Travis Kelce who didn't play his best this year, receivers who couldn't catch the ball. Andy Reid's a great pick. DeMeco Ryans, for all the reasons you said, Bobby, great selection as well. He may win the actual Coach of the Year award. My best coach this season award is going to go to Kevin Stefanski. I've mentioned before that I think that taking a team like the Browns, with their history and everything, the chaos that's goes on there, taking that circus to a playoffs, as coach, should definitely be awarded as much as possible. But if you look at the Browns season, I mean, they're in a tough division. Their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, isn't really playing that well. And then he gets injured and that's out for the season in the middle of the year. So, I mean, this could probably be a coach and GM thing, but the fact that they brought in Joe Flacco, kept the team afloat, won games, yeah, maybe you say they had a disappointing loss in the playoffs to, Bobby's coach of the year. But the Browns, I mean, they did a bang up job. I thought they would be in the position that they were in before the season, but obviously, I think you know if you had told me the Browns um, are going to be without Deshaun Watson for most of the year, I wouldn't have picked them to be a playoff team. And the fact that they made it despite that is huge. And Kevin Stefanski is an offensive coach, so the fact that he's built a great defense to be able to hold them, keep them in games, but the offense thrives on running the ball and quarterbacks okay quarterback play from a Deshaun Watson or Joe Flacco. Like he's built a great foundation there. So I'm to me like Stefanski is my coach, best coach this season. Really, and we probably should be talking about him as like a top 5 guy, honestly. And, like who knows what he could accomplish if he was on other teams, but he's really, really, really good coach. Um, all right, well, that's the awards, and that's our show. Obviously, next week we're gonna talk Super Bowl, make some picks, make some locks. Our final lock of the week is next week. I can't believe it. We'll go over our picks from last week on the next week's show, and we'll also give some takes about Super Bowl parties, wings, commercials, and all that good stuff. So come back next week, and we can't wait to see you.
See
Thanks,
ya.
guys.